Hi, I'm Chip Hardwick. I'm the Synod Executive for the Synod of the Covenant, and I'm excited to introduce you to Alan Hilton. Alan is the director of A House United, a ministry that looks at reducing toxic polarization in our country. I am introducing you to him because he's going to speak at our assembly in October. The leadership committee of our synod was very interested in having us look at issues of polarization. And so, of course, Alan was one of the first people that I wanted to introduce the leadership committee to, and I'm excited to introduce you to as well. He and I have been friends for about 6 or 7 years and have shared some ministry in the past. And Alan, if you could, first of all, Alan, thank you so much for coming
It's my
to
pleasure.
the
Thank you.
Synod retreat. And I wondered if you would just tell us first why it's important to be looking at issues of polarization, and then what will we be talking about? How will you spend your time there with us?
Sure. We are what 4 or 5 days past a another instance of political violence in our land, and that's only exhibit the latest of how damaging our loathing for one another across political lines can be. You all saw that when Charlie Kirk was was shot, immediately the right assumed that it was a lefty who had shot him, and the left started dancing in the streets about a death. And that's not true of every right and every left, but it sits in our culture. And I began this work because I started to feel this 15 years ago in the way things were going in churches. So even before the Trump Hillary candidacy of 2016 and the campaign and how bloody that one got, it was very clear that church people that I loved, who were evangelicals on the one hand and progressives on the other hand, were talking about one another in terms that didn't fit what I knew about the people I knew on each side, and it grieved me. And I thought, well, if the nation is going this direction, if we're going toward mutual loathing, church ought to have some kind of answer to that. Church ought to leaven its culture in a way that moves toward reconciliation, moves toward collaboration, cooperation, and I, I feel pretty good about these years of work because we've got it pretty much right now, right?
No more polarization
But no
anywhere.
more
Yes,
polarization.
yes,
You look
yes.
around and everything's rosy.
Yeah, so it's so important to be looking at it. It's will be helpful for people who will be attending. How will we spend our time? We'll have from around 9 o'clock in the morning. We'll have about 3 hours in the morning, then a couple of hours in the early afternoon. And I just wondered, just in very broad sketches, if you could tell us what we'll be
Yeah.
focusing on.
Yeah. Well, at the very outset, we will just identify what's going on in our neighborhoods, how we are experiencing polarization, and where it's showing up in our churches, in our cities, in our neighborhoods, and then move toward how God has worked in the past to bring people together, and how God might work in our midst to bring us together. And the overall ending of this will not be, oddly enough, will not be by the end of the day we're going to be able to sing Kumbaya together. That would be great. If I don't know how much political difference will be in the room at this gathering, but it would be great if we're all coming together. The end in John 17, where Jesus prays for his disciples that they all may be one. He doesn't pray it so that we will feel warm and fuzzy. I think the warm and fuzzy is a bonus, but he prays it so that the world may know that you sent me, God, Father, and that you love them even as you love me. In other words, Jesus, both in the command in the famous command in John 13, uh, all people will know that you're my disciples if you love one another, right? A new commandment I give you. The world is going to look at you and say, I know who you are. You're one of those Jesus people. But in 17, it is people are going to change their view of God if the church figures out how to be one. And I'm all about sort of leaning toward the world with this gospel. So we'll start with skills we can use to better understand one another, better talk with one another, better be church with one another. But we'll move toward how does the church become a witness in the world? In a world, by the way, that is in a loneliness epidemic, along with this toxic polarization that we're experiencing, and maybe on the front porch of civil war. How are we going to be church in that setting in ways that move God's peace into play? So
It's
that's
going to
kind
be
of the
great.
flow. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
kind of the flow.
Yeah, thank you. It's going to be so great to have you, Alan. I want to invite all of you that are listening to this to come. Of course, our commissioners are expected to be there, and we look forward to seeing you. But this will be on October 24th. It's a Friday, and it will be between around 9 o'clock and around 3 o'clock. We're meeting at the Weber Center in Adrian, Michigan, and hope that even if you're not a commissioner or active in the Synod, that you will come and learn from Alan. Everyone who comes will have the opportunity to receive his book, A House United, How the Church Can Save the World. It's well worth reading. Alan, thank you so much. We look forward to seeing you later in October. And of course, if you have any questions, you who are watching this, please feel free to contact me. My email address is chip@synodofthecovenant.org. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thanks.